Welcome, everybody, to the Off the Wall Hockey Show. It's a hockey show for hockey fans, part of the Steel Flyers All Sports Network. We are on episode 45, and just want to let you know that we are recording this on Wednesday. It is Thanksgiving week here in the U.S., so we don't know what happened on Wednesday night yet. Obviously, as of us recording this, you guys are seeing this on Friday. But we obviously want to get a show out to you this week, and with Thanksgiving on Thursday, this was the time that we could do it. So we're going to have our usual full slate of NHL discussion here, and as usual, I am joined by Steele, my co-host. Steele, another great week of NHL action before us this past week, and it's just rolling along. I can't believe we're already to Thanksgiving. This season is flying by. Welcome to the show and ready to go.
First of all, I would like to say thank you very much, John, for all the hard work you do. If you are not following John from Off the Wall Hockey, you are missing out. The guy calls the games. He has a great stream. You got to be there for that. You got to check it out. Also, you got to be here every Friday night to check out Off the Wall Hockey, a hockey show for hockey fans where me and John cover the entire NHL. That's right. We cover the entire NHL. We got great segments, power rankings, best games of the week, 3 stars, hottest teams, coldest teams, and prospect watch. And some fun. We do some picks for Saturday games. I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm with you. I can't believe we are at the quarter mark of this season already. It's amazing. There's been some great hockey going on, and I can't wait to get in it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
All right, starting off with top stories as usual. We go through each of our 3 top stories. What have you got, Steele, here to lead us off?
All right, to lead us off, really glad to hear that the Ottawa Senators are back playing.
Yes.
They missed, I believe it was 2 games
3.
that they had. Sorry, 3?
Yep, 3 games postponed.
Okay, they had 3 games that were postponed due to 10 players being on the COVID list. Mm-hmm. Okay, and the fact that they're back playing is really good news. I can't even express enough of how good news that is to see those guys back playing again as well, too. You know, with the NHL mandating all players being vaccinated and then being put on the COVID list, and then you have to go, I believe the protocols now is 5 days where you have to receive 2 negative tests. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then you're allowed to be back into the facilities or, whatever the case is. But they shut down.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They completely shut down. They had 10 players that were on the COVID list. So they shut down, postponed games. It was exactly like what they did last year.
Yeah, it was a rough stretch there for Ottawa, and very, very happy to see a lot of these guys are already back in the lineup, back fully healthy. That's obviously great news. They didn't play for 3 games. They had 10 guys on the list, but then last weekend, whole bunch of guys came off. I think it was like 7 or 8 of them all at the same time came off the list. And Ottawa was able to play their first game back on Monday night against Colorado. They were not able to win that game, but it was great to see them back out on the ice, the guys back healthy, and exactly. Ottawa is back underway. Their season is continuing, and they are moving on now, trying to get some wins as the year goes along. But not a great situation there last week, unfortunately, with the games postponed, but it's really great to see them back.
Exactly. And that was kind of what I felt would be one of the bigger stories, that just to see that team back. They're even playing again tonight against or at San Jose.
Yep.
So not only are they playing, but they're playing, here in the United States. So they're able to travel and all of that other stuff too. So that's really boding well for them to be able to say, yeah, we're back playing again. They did only have to postpone 3 games. And as we saw from last year, where they tacked on all those games there that Vancouver missed out on at the end. I think that with the full season being available, that they'll be able to reschedule those games with much greater ease than what they had to try to do last year, because they had to try to get all those games in before the end of the season, and then they ended up pushing the season out a couple weeks as well, you know what I mean, so they could get the regular season all the way in. So at least with the full season now, those games will be much more easily rescheduled.
Yeah, they definitely should be able to fit those games in there that they did have to postpone, and Ottawa is certainly going to play all of their games before the end of the year. It's just going to be a little bit of tinkering with the schedule to get those in. But definitely great to see them back out on the ice. My top story also is COVID-related.
Yeah.
And it's on the unfortunate side of things. Ottawa's just come back, and we may have another team going out sooner rather than later here. The New York Islanders having a lot of issues right now. They are currently missing 8 players out of their lineup. It was 9, but Zdeno Chara apparently is on the roster for tonight's game. So that means it must have been a false positive, because he went to the COVID list for like 1 day and now is back. I saw that. So if Chara is back, then you can scratch him off the list. That makes it from 9 down to 8 players, but still, 2 of those players are injured. Brock Nelson and Ryan Pulock are injured. The other 6 are on the COVID list. I know Ross Johnston, Josh Bailey, trying to think off the top of my head. Those 2, Anders Lee, I believe, is on the list. So they've got some big pieces out. And the other side of this is that because the Islanders haven't had any games postponed yet, they're still playing without these key pieces in the lineup. And they've now lost 6 straight games. Their losing streak is now at 6. They are really, really struggling. I thought that them going back home might be able to, help them get back into the win column, and it hasn't at all. They've lost both games at home so far, so Islanders really struggling on the ice right now and really struggling off the ice with COVID, and as of now, no games have been postponed. The NHL did wait until Ottawa got up to 10 players on the list before they started postponing games. Islanders right now are at 6. So they're just kind of playing without these guys, and it has certainly not helped New York in their hopes to be a playoff team this year.
No, especially coming out of the gates and stumbling like they have been and not playing very well. Plus the fact that you have to take into consideration that they played their first 13 games all on the road.
Yep.
And they're just now starting to play games at home now, and then they only play 2 games and then they're back out on the road again, and then they're back for another couple games, and then, you know what I mean? So they're not really like, okay, you're home for the next month and a half.
Yeah, no, it's not working that way.
So, let me ask you a question then, okay? So do you think they should lower the number of players on a team that get on the COVID list before they start postponing games? I mean, it's kind of, I'm not trying to rationalize this. I'm not trying to, discount or discredit the severity of COVID by any stretch. But before COVID, you would talk about the flu running through teams, right? And you would have guys that would be out of the lineup for a couple of days, right? And then they would be back in the lineup. And there would be a stretch where you would have, 3-4 guys that would be out all at the same time because they're all sick. Because guess what? All them guys share the same locker room and, blah, 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 So the fact that, Ottawa got to 10 and now the Islanders are at 6. I mean, what? I guess, it's like, well, it's kind of sad that the Islanders had to get to 10 players before the NHL decided, okay, we better start, postponing games. Now the Islanders are, that's what I mean. That's why I'm asking the question. Do you think they should lower the number of players to whatever so that teams don't struggle like this?
Well, I think that's something that they would have needed to do the first time. I think they've set the precedent now. Yeah. Now, if you start postponing Islanders games at 6 players on the list, the Senators have a legitimate gripe with the league to be like,
Yeah.
you let us get to 10, and we were on a long losing streak. We had a bunch of guys out of the lineup. We got to 10 players before you did anything about it. Why do they get help at 6? You know,
Okay.
like the precedent was set with this first team, and that was Ottawa, and the league kind of set the precedent at 10. So now it's going to be hard for the league to change that now without the teams that came before kind of having a legitimate just, reason to be upset with the league, because
Yeah.
they set that precedent of saying, we're going to make you play and make you play, until finally it got to 10 and they were like, okay, this is too much. We've got to put a clamp down on this.
10 is...
That decision needed to be made. Honestly, the league should have had some sort of number or some sort of situation in their head where they say, if it gets to this point, this is when things will get shut down. Now, maybe they did, and 10 was the number. At that point, then, the Islanders, obviously at 6, aren't going to be getting games postponed unless that number continues to rise. But I feel like once you make that for one team, you have to...
Yeah.
That has to be across the board now. You have to treat every team the same. You can't make the Senators play with 9 guys on the list and make them keep playing games and then be like, oh, the Islanders are really struggling right now. We should probably give them a week off and postpone Islanders games before they get to 10, because then that's not fair to the Senators. So I feel like you have to treat everyone the same in this situation, and whatever number that is what it has to be for everybody, and it seems like the league has made that number 10.
See, now, without having that, and I read the protocols, okay, and it didn't say anything in there about
there's
number
no
of players.
arbitrary number written in the protocols that said the team's games will be postponed at this point. There's nothing like, there's no line drawn there. So it's just up to the league to when they're finally going to be like, okay, I guess this is too many. We'll start postponing games.
10 players, when you only have 23 guys on the bench.
You're calling up half your AHL team at that point.
That's what I'm talking about. When you get to that point, that's... But I would have to think that you'd have to kind of maybe see, look, I would have thought that the number would have been a little bit lower.
I would have too. That should have been something that was written into the protocols at the beginning of the season.
Exactly.
Team gets to 7 players, 7 NHL players out of the lineup. Their games are postponed for a week or something like that until they can start getting players back. That is something that should have been put in from the beginning.
Agreed.
And just had a hard line number of that's where it is.
Exactly.
Because now it looks like a judgment call from the league, and people are going to start accusing the league of treating one team differently than others, and they're favoriting this team, and they're not, because it's Ottawa and they're not very good, they're not going to get any sort of good treatment, whereas the Islanders, the league wants to be a playoff team, so they're going to start postponing games sooner, and they should have just set a number and been like, if you have this many guys on the list, you're sitting out for a week. If you have less than this number, things are going to continue per usual, and it should have been a hard line drawn in the sand type thing. In my opinion, that's what I would have done.
I have to agree with you 100%. I think that because they dealt with this last year, specifically dealt with this, with a number of players being out, they started postponing games.
Yep.
Right. And so, but I never saw any specific area or section designated for if a team gets to a certain number of players that the league will be able to say they can start postponing games.
Yeah, it wasn't ever written out. It was just a league decision, and it would get to a certain point and the league would say, okay, that's it. Games are being postponed.
Okay, so now just like you said, the precedent has been set at 10 players with Ottawa.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, Islanders, that it's really kind of a shame that you only have 6 players on the list, but then you have to keep playing.
Yep.
It's like I was trying to say. I'm not trying to compare COVID with the flu. I'm just trying to compare player availability.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when the flu was going through And you would have players that would miss a couple of days. And you would always hear the announcers talk about, a guy going and getting, IVs and all that stuff to come out and play.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he had the flu for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Right. And he got dehydrated. So he got some IVs. He's all good to go. He's back ready to go. But that's when the flu runs through the team. So you're going to have guys that are going to miss a certain amount of time based off of that.
Mm-hmm.
So all I'm doing is comparing the availability of the players to where now you have to treat this kind of the same, where it's a player availability now.
Mm-hmm.
You're on the COVID list, which means you're not available to play.
Yes.
Right. So now I guess that if the Islanders get to 9 or 10 players, I would expect to see games starting to be postponed.
Yeah, I hope they don't get to that many, but yes.
No, I agree.
I think that, the precedent has been set now that if they do get to that number of players, then you've got to start, you've got to postpone at least, a week's worth of games like they did for Ottawa. I hope the Islanders don't get to that number. I agree. I hope it gets better and, goes the other way and they start getting guys back. But I think the league's in a situation now where, if it does get to that point, then they got to treat them exactly the same way as they did the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, I agree. 100%, and it's kind of like, we talked at Ottawa's getting back and now Islanders are kind of going down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was our opening COVID announcements.
Yeah. Yeah, we still have those.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? It's like, so, all right. Well, let's get into something maybe, I don't know, man. Our number 2 stories.
Yeah, they're not positive things either. Well, they're positive for one team and negative for the other.
Yeah, right.
Both of them.
Go first. You can go first for your second top story.
All right. Well, this isn't great for Conor McDavid or the Oilers, but it's very good for the Dallas Stars. Conor McDavid's 17-game point streak to open the season was finally snapped last night against Dallas. Dallas won that game 4-1, and they shut down Conor McDavid in that game. It was a great defensive effort. Dallas did a great job of getting in the shooting lanes. They contained the Oilers' speed extremely well. They did not give up odd man rushes. It's funny, like the only noticeable odd man rush that I remember Edmonton getting was the goal that Edmonton scored. It was their one goal of the game, but
that was it.
The Dallas did not give up a lot of odd man rushes to the Oilers.
No.
They didn't allow the Oilers to get their speed game going. They played very tight checking lockdown defense, and they blocked a boatload of shots. Absolutely a ton of blocked shots for the Stars last night. And Conor McDavid did not get on the board for the first time this season. He didn't get on the board, and 17-game point streak was snapped, and Dallas is the only team this year so far that has held McDavid to not having a point in the game.
Yeah, I was trying to sit here and think, even the game against Philadelphia that they played Edmonton really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think McDavid was still able to get an assist or something in the game. So yeah, but they still played him pretty well. But I'll tell you what, to open up the season with 17 games and just be like a point in a 17-game point streak. I mean, who does that? Gretzky?
Yeah. No, I mean, McDavid's been unreal this season. Him and Draisaitl both have been absolutely nuts. I mean, Draisaitl actually leads the team in goals and in points, and Draisaitl did get a point. He got an assist last night on that only Edmonton goal, but McDavid has been absolutely spectacular as well. And I'm reading here, McDavid's actual overall point streak in the regular season, if you include last year, was 25 games. It was 17 this season to start the year, but overall it was 25 straight games with a point for McDavid in the regular season. And
wow, and he's 4 points back of even Draisaitl.
Yeah, and Draisaitl's actually the one leading the team in points. So that shows how ridiculous those two have been so far this year.
Exactly. Now, here's the scary part, right? What you get Draisaitl, McDavid, they're 36-32. Then you get Ovechkin 30. Mm-hmm. Then the next guy is like 7 back.
Yeah.
And it's clearly a separation there.
Yeah, absolutely.
With Leon Draisaitl, Conor McDavid, and then Ovechkin in there with 30. But those two guys are just running away with it, basically.
Yeah, those three guys have separated themselves. You got a bunch of guys at 22, a couple guys at 23. Then you have that gap. And then you've got Ovechkin up at 30. You've got McDavid at 32 and Draisaitl leading the way at 36. And it's funny, even Draisaitl is 6 ahead of Ovechkin in third. So Draisaitl has really separated himself early this year. And,
exactly. And I mean, even with Troy Terry and his point streak, reaching double-digit games, going that distance as well, still not. I mean, only at 22 points.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that just goes to show you the skill, the production of Connor McDavid, and the fact that, he went 17 straight games with a point. Okay.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Unreal.
He missed one game. Big deal.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's a big deal. I would expect McDavid to get back on the score sheet tonight. Edmonton's playing Arizona tonight. I would expect McDavid and Draisaitl to definitely be involved offensively there.
I would think so, yes.
Yeah. So we'll see what goes on tonight, which is Wednesday. Again, by the time that everyone watching hears this, they'll know what happens Wednesday night. But
exactly.
We'll see what McDavid's able to do. But just, for him to have that streak stopped, that is big news. And for Dallas to be the team to do it, kudos to them and their defensive structure last night in that game.
Yeah, because it wasn't necessarily about their goaltending. It was more about what you said, the block shots.
Well, yeah, Ottinger played well, but he didn't have to do a whole lot. Dallas's ability to just disrupt Edmonton's offense and not actually allow a lot of shots on goal was very impressive to me.
I mean, when you say that and when you break the game down and you say that, they're in the shooting lanes and things like that, that just goes to show you that the goalie didn't have to do much. Mm-hmm. And in fact, that was like, can we hire that defense to come play in another city?
Well, it's funny because Dallas's defense isn't always like that.
I know.
Dallas as a team in general is very hit or miss. Like, you never know which Stars team is going to show up on any given night.
Exactly.
The really good defensive Stars team showed up last night.
Exactly. So maybe you can. Anyway, so. But yeah, that's when you can say that you're the team that stopped that streak. That's second top story worthy, I would think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What do you got at number 2?
Number 2 for me is another streak ending. See, we're doing all this negativity, man. I don't know. But the San Jose Sharks,
yes,
of all teams, one of the California teams that's been not playing all that terribly well after they come out of the gates really well, and then have not since played very well, was the team that just seemingly was able to just not allow Carolina to score any points. And the game went to overtime, and Carolina finally it ends at 4.
Yep.
Now, it's not a regulation loss for Carolina, okay, but it ends their streak.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So they still have a really immaculate-looking record for the number of games that they've played so far.
Oh, yeah.
But this being their overtime loss, first one, ends their win streak at 4. And I think that's a significant story because of how San Jose played. They just matched Carolina physically, and it was if you can't tell, this was hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, best game of last week. Talking about it right now.
Yep.
So we'll be talking about this game a lot later, but I think that the streak of Carolina and their first overtime loss. With that being said, Carolina, man, one of the best teams going, and just look, you're going to have those games.
Yeah.
Where the opposition is just going to be able to, their goaltending just was a little better that night. And but I have no doubts about Carolina bouncing back after this overtime loss. They went into the overtime on a power play where San Jose had a power play into that game.
Yep.
At the end of that game. So they went into the overtime on a 4-on-3. So, that's tough to defend.
Yeah, definitely. And it's
and they just had a bang bang play, and boop, there it was. So, but Carolina still playing very, very good hockey right now, and the fact that they had won 4 straight and then they just get this overtime loss, still one of the hottest teams, still one of the best teams out there, but they finally get an overtime loss to the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah, it's a story anytime Carolina loses, just because it happens so little. Carolina's won 14 out of 17 games to start the season, so they do not have many losses this year, and it is notable when they do lose because there aren't many teams that have been able to beat them yet. So kudos to the Sharks. Sharks are a team that's right around that 500 mark, trying to move a little bit above it, and that's a big win for them.
Big time.
There aren't many teams that have beaten the Hurricanes, and the Sharks are one of them. So, very big win for them on home ice in overtime against what right now is the top team in the league.
Exactly, and the Sharks looked really good. I mean, they played a pretty disciplined game. There wasn't a lot of power plays in the game. You know what I mean? But it was a tough physical game, and it was just basically a goaltending matchup.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, but
San Jose's looked a lot better this year than last year.
Yeah, I agree. Probably a lot better than what they did last year.
San Jose is playing a lot better this year than they did last year. There is certainly no question to me about that.
Yeah.
So that's a good win for them.
Noticeably, they're playing better this year than what they did last year. So.
Yes.
All right, man. So your third top story is
Colorado Avalanche finally getting on track. They've won 5 straight games now. They're 9-5-1 on the season. And, man, it's funny what 2 weeks can do to change things around, because Colorado a few weeks ago were one of these teams that everyone was starting to get concerned about. They weren't playing well. Obviously, they were expected to be one of the top teams in the NHL again this season, just like they were last year.
Yeah.
And they got out to a really slow start. They weren't playing well. They were losing a lot of games. They weren't getting good defense or goaltending. And people started to get concerned, and everyone was like, what is wrong with the Avalanche? Well, turns out it was nothing more than just a slow start to the season, because they have absolutely gotten their game back on track. They look like the Colorado Avalanche again. Again, 5 straight wins for them, 9-5-1 now on the season. They were 4-5-1. They were under 500.
Yeah.
And now they've ripped off 5 straight, and they're 9-5-1 on the year. They're starting to, again, play like Colorado is supposed to. And they're doing this without Nathan MacKinnon, who has been out of the lineup with an injury. So the fact that they lose MacKinnon and are still able to pull off a win streak like this, to me, is pretty impressive. And I think Colorado is going to end up being fine this season. I think they're going to end up being Colorado and the team that we thought that they were going to be. It was just a slow start for them, but it looks like they've really gotten themselves back on track.
I'm with you on that, too. We had questions about Colorado coming into this season with losing you know, a goaltender like Grubauer.
Yep.
And how was Colorado going to come and play? And, they didn't come out of the gates all that great. And then, everybody was like, well, and then, injuries and such started to happen for them. And then it was like, well, what's going on here with Colorado? And as you said, it's amazing what happens with 2 weeks. It's not quite as a noticeable difference as it was last year when we only played 56 games. This year we're playing 82, where if you go on a bender and you drop 5 games last year, right, that's 5 games is 10% of the season.
Yeah, that's a good chunk of the year all of a sudden, and it's like, whoa, that's not good.
Okay, and if you suddenly are, 5 games out, that's 10 points, my man.
Yep.
You don't just go whip off 5 games.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So the fact that you're not seeing the impact of the slow starts as much as you are like we did last year, because the games are a little bit more spread out and there's more games now to play, and so the slow starts are starting to creep back into where it's a good friend of the show, Isaiah from O&B Puck. He said, and I love listening to them guys, and he always says that seasons have ebbs and flows, ups and downs.
Yes, they do.
And you're gonna look. There's 82 games. That's a lot of games. You're not gonna be able to be out there and be shiny and pristine every night.
Yep.
And so gonna win some, gonna lose some.
Yep.
Good to see him win.
Yes.
Yes. Better than losing.
Oh, absolutely. And it's good to see Colorado back on track for sure.
Exactly. And coming back to where we kind of felt that they would be.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I'm with you too. I like when we have something positive.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Something good to talk about.
We got a top story that was positive, man. Woo!
Yeah, a little short on those this week. A lot of the big news has been in the negative side of things, but
exactly,
that one is not, so that's good.
Exactly, and to have a 5-game win streak, I mean, that's just another feather in the cap for Colorado. I think that also helps to bolster. I mean, look, let's face it, 5 games is 10 points.
Yeah. That's big come the end of the year. You look at the final standings and think of the difference that 10 points can make. That could be the difference between first and third in the division. That could be the difference between being third place in the playoffs and being fifth place out of a playoff spot. Like that, 10 points is a big deal, and it's good to see the Avalanche starting to rack them up now, starting to climb in the standings and put those wins in the win column.
Exactly, and I think as more of their players, their injuries come back and they're able to play a little bit better as time goes along, I think you're starting to see the team starting to click. It's like we talked about this like in the last couple of shows where we're almost at the quarter mark.
Yep.
And it's some teams it takes, especially teams that have had some turnover from guys that were there and not there last year, that are now there this year.
Yep.
So you have some teams that are doing some turnover and, guys getting used to playing with each other and, blah, blah, blah. And those are the kinds of things that you need to have to take into account.
Absolutely.
And now guys are traveling, teams are traveling now,
yep,
where they weren't traveling as far last season.
Mm-hmm.
They were, you were going from Montreal to Toronto. Seriously, though, how far of a trip is that?
Yeah.
Not very far, but unless you're going from, like, Toronto to, say, Calgary.
Yeah, and the Canadian teams were the only ones really traveling like that, because in the U.S., the divisions were all geographical. So, teams on the East Coast, like the Penguins, weren't going to San Jose. The Capitals weren't going to L.A., Now they are. So there's a lot more travel this year.
Exactly. So, I mean, some of those little nuances of differences that, that we took into account last year, you have to kind of change that a little bit for this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good third top story there, man. That's a good one.
Yes. What do we have here to finish off top stories from you?
Okay, well, mine is 50-50, positive and not. So we'll start with the bad first.
Yes.
Some injuries are starting to pile up now.
Yeah. Injuries have played a big role in this year already.
That was one of the things that I wanted to kind of just touch on here briefly, where players throughout the league have missed time, whether they were either on the COVID list or because of an injury.
Yep. Or sometimes both.
Or sometimes both. You know what I mean? But a lot of man games have been lost.
Yes.
And we're only in the quarter century or the quarter mark of the season. And when you have that many man games lost due to injury, that to me I think is a significant issue. And I also believe it's worthy of at least a third top story for this week's show.
And there's been a lot of big name players out too.
I mean, there's two big names from Tampa Bay right off the hop.
Yeah, Nikita Kucherov got hurt early in the year, and he's going to be out for a long time. Now Braden Point goes out. He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks, right?
And that's just Tampa. That's just two star players from the Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, we haven't even got, Pittsburgh with Malkin hasn't played yet this year. Crosby missed the start of the year and then went on the COVID list. So Crosby's been out twice now. Brian Rust missed time. Marcus Pettersson missed time. There's been a ton of injuries there. There's been a bunch of injuries in Washington.
Yep.
Oshie's been out. Eller's out. Mantha's on LTIR. Backstrom hasn't played at all this season up in Washington. So, we just gone through 3 teams, and we're talking about big name players missing significant amounts of time. And it's not just those guys. It's all around the league. This is becoming a big thing where there's a lot of high-profile players not in the lineup. Nathan McKinnon not in the lineup for Colorado. Devon Taves missed a ton of time, ton of time for Colorado.
Ryan Ellis for Philadelphia and Kevin Hayes.
Yep.
They both came back for one game, both back on the IR.
Yep.
So it's and they only played one game. Yeah. I think Ellis has played 5 games for Philadelphia, but he's missed every single game since then, and Hayes has only played 1.
Yeah, because he started out on injured reserve, then he came back for 1 game and got re-injured and is back out again. So yeah, it's been a real common thing all year long. There's been a ton of injuries, and it's been to star players. It's been to big name players. It's not just been third, fourth line guys. So that makes it even more high profile when you have these star players not in the lineup.
Exactly. And so that's why I kind of felt that I would combine this part of this top story with the fact that we're coming into the Thanksgiving break. Because mandatory shutdown on Thursday, that gives everybody at least another day's rest.
Yeah, it's 1 day off to just kind of sit back, relax, and reset a little bit.
I mean, there's a full slate of games for Wednesday.
Yes.
And there is a full slate of games for Friday.
Friday, yeah. So the 2 days around Thanksgiving are loaded on the schedule. But Thanksgiving itself has nothing.
Except for Thursday, that's it.
Yes.
So it's an extra day of rest. Take advantage of it. Hopefully you can heal up a little bit more, potentially get out there on the ice and play. Probably not any of the names that we've mentioned.
No, those are more significant longer-term injuries. But
yeah, so, I mean, but the fact that there is that Thanksgiving break where there isn't a single hockey game on Thursday, and that's kind of depressing if you must know the truth.
Yeah, no hockey on Thursday is it's going to be a weird day, absolutely nothing happening in the league.
I mean, I would much rather if they could all right, so there's a Christmas special, right? And it's where it features the heat miser and the cold miser.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mrs. Claus asks them if they could make a deal for 1 year.
Yep.
And the deal was they would make it snow in the South one day for Christmas.
Yeah.
Right? And so, all right, so that's kind of how I feel about this. You know, like we had to cut a deal, you know?
Yep.
So, all right.
All right, well, those are our top stories for this week in the NHL, and that is going to bring us now to Top Shelf, our weekly power rankings here where we look at the top 5 teams in the NHL, and we'll get right into it here. Again, these records that we're going to be saying are as of Wednesday evening, so the games on Wednesday have not been played yet, so they'll obviously be different come Friday when you guys are actually hearing this, but number 5, we'll get right into it here. Top Shelf Power Rankings. Who do you have in at number 5, Steele?
Okay, so I had to look at this closely,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to make a decision.
Yep.
Because number 5 was really, really tough.
Yep.
Because I see your list.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and my list is slightly different.
Yep.
Because I'm missing a team and you're missing a team than what I have, right?
Yep.
So, all right. My 5th best team is Edmonton.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I have Edmonton at number 5 was because of their goal differential.
Yep.
And because they played 2 less games.
Yep.
And have 1 less point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's why I have Edmonton at number 5. Look, you can't not talk about Edmonton and talk about Draisaitl and McDavid.
Mm-hmm.
And they are just and have been playing lights out since the puck has dropped on this season. And to me, they have not earned their way off of my list yet.
Yep.
Okay, so that's who I have. At number 5 is the Edmonton Oilers, and you are welcome, Peyton, and you're welcome, Perlo.
Yes. My number 5 team is the Washington Capitals.
Yeah.
Who are 11-3-5 on the season. Washington continues to impress me with their point percentage, their ability to, even when they lose, make it an overtime game and at least get a point out of it. This team is not losing in regulation. They've only lost 3 times in regulation this year. And then another thing that's really impressed me is that Washington is doing this without Nicholas Backstrom, without Anthony Mantha, with TJ Oshie missing time, with Lars Eller now not in the lineup.
Back now?
Yeah, Oshie, I believe, came back and then went out again, I think.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I haven't followed closely enough with them specifically, but I know he was out. I think he came back for a game and then might be out again. But they're missing big pieces out of this lineup.
Yeah, obviously, Mantha, Oshie,
Backstrom, Eller, Backstrom. I mean, those are big forward out of top 9 forwards for this team, and Washington is still got points in 16 out of 19 games. That is very, very impressive. So I've got Washington in at number 5. I've really liked what I've seen from them this year. Samsonov is having a great start to the year in goal, which that was kind of one of those questions for me about the Capitals, were they going to get good enough goaltending? Well, so far they have. So I've got Washington in at number 5.
All right, man. John's number 5 top shelf power ranking is Washington Capitals. And you know what? That's exactly why I have Washington at number 4.
Mm-hmm.
Have been duly impressed with the fact that they've had some of the biggest names out for them.
Yep.
having Oshie out, having Mantha out, and having Backstrom out might not be, a bad thing for another team, but it is for the Capitals. But they have still been able to take care of business.
Yep.
They have been getting amazing goaltending. Okay. Yep. And almost every time now Ovechkin steps out on the ice, it's a record. And he's third in the league with 30 points.
Yeah. At 36 years old, he's got 30 points and 15 goals in 19 games.
I mean, okay. Washington playing really, really well in a stacked Metro division.
Yep.
And still playing well is also impressive. That's why I have them at number 4 on my power rankings. John, who is your number 4?
I have the Calgary Flames. This team is really starting to impress me this year. I was not at all expecting this from the Calgary Flames, especially after the really bad year that they had last season. Yep. This team is now 12-3-5 on the season. Almost the same record as the Capitals, just one more win. And Jacob Markstrom in goal has been ridiculously good. But so is Dan Vladar, the new backup goaltender for Markstrom. Vladar's come in and played extremely well as well. So they're getting great goaltending every single night, no matter who's in goal. Their offense is really clicking. They're getting a lot more secondary scoring. They're not just relying on Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk. Andrew Mangiapane's having a great year. They're getting more out of, Milan Lucic. They've got a lot more secondary guys really helping out this team offensively. Their defense is playing a lot better than it did last season. Just everything is improved for the Calgary Flames this year. And I've been so impressed with them in the way that they've played. And honestly, very, very surprised. But surprised, obviously, in a great way. And I've got them at number 4.
I'm with you on that, man, all day long, because I'll be honest with you, my friend, I have Calgary on my list too.
Yep.
Except that Calgary on my list is a little bit higher than they are on your list.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You have Calgary at number 4.
Yep.
And now we're going to move to the top 3.
Yes.
And I have Calgary as one of my top 3 teams. Okay.
Yeah.
And the reason why I have Calgary there, along with the fact that, they only have 3 regulation losses. Man, that's just tough to ignore. Okay. It's the same thing with Washington too. You know what I mean? I have Washington at number 4 and Calgary I have at number 3. Mm-hmm. That's just a ridiculously small number.
Yeah.
At so far this point in the season. So, and the fact that they've been able to come out east and just handle the Eastern teams.
Yep.
With no problem.
Yep.
Okay? And exactly with what you said. They're getting secondary scoring. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mangiapane has been playing out of his bloody head.
Yep.
Okay? You know what else I think is really amazing too? Markstrom, 5 big shutouts already. 5. Hello? That's a lot.
Sure is. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league as far as keeping the puck out of their net.
And they block shots for him. I mean, it's not like he's got to, make 40-odd saves a game.
Yep.
He's not getting peppered. But let's face it, 5 shutouts already?
Yeah.
That, you got to, I mean, that's Vezina talk right there.
It is, absolutely.
I mean, we're only 20-odd games in. We're not even 20 games in yet, and we're talking to him about the Vezina. All right. I mean, unless they drop off the cliff, which I don't see that happening. I really don't. I think the coach, Sutter, however you want to pronounce it, has really been able to influence this team now that he's had a full off season, full training camp. instead of coming in halfway through the year last year, and then
100%.
And now all the guys are buying in.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so this team is just clicking, and I would really like to see them play well and continue to play well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Daryl Sutter's done a great job with this team. He's getting a lot of production out of a lot of different players, a lot of different lines, and they're playing their best hockey right now. And we'll see if it keeps up. But Calgary has been extremely impressive to start this year.
All right, John, who do you got at number 3?
The Toronto Maple Leafs, 13-6-1, and Toronto is the team that we have different. You have Edmonton on the list. I have Toronto. They both have 13 wins. I just put Toronto on because of how they're playing recently. Toronto has been better than Edmonton over their last 10 games or so.
Yeah.
Toronto, I believe, is 8-2 in their last 10 games. This is a team that I thought Toronto might struggle a little bit this year, and it's gone the exact opposite. They've been better this year than they were last year. And Jack Campbell in goal. I mean, what a world of difference with Jack Campbell now as their starting goaltender. And
I'll say,
talk about another guy who's in the Vezina conversation as of right now, about 20 games in or so. Jack Campbell's been incredible in net for the Maple Leafs, and this is a team that's finding ways to win games. They're winning a lot of games, and they're playing really, really good hockey right now, especially after they got off to kind of a slow start. It wasn't as long of a slow start as teams like Vegas and Colorado, who took a little bit longer to get it turned around. But Toronto wasn't great out of the gate for those first couple of weeks, but they really turned it around since then. And they're playing really good hockey right now. So I got the Leafs at number 3, and I've been really impressed with what I've seen from them.
Can't disagree with you one at all about Toronto. It was tough for me to leave Toronto off this list, but when I compared them up to the Oilers, I just felt that the Oilers are an overall better team right now than Toronto. Like, I would give Toronto like 5B.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I would give Edmonton the first spot.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. All
Edmonton would be the first team off the list for me.
Right. Exactly. So that's kind of where I'm at with Toronto. That's kind of where I felt with them. But I agree, though. They've been playing very, very well. Jack Campbell has been the story up there as well, too. Mm-hmm. And we agreed that at the beginning of the year, we didn't think Toronto was going to be, we felt that there was going to be a little bit of a hangover from last year, getting crushed in the playoffs. And, how were they going to be able to come out and play this year? And were they going to just be, a good regular season team? Let's see how can we do after the end of the season, blah, 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 blah. And they've really shown that they've been a resilient team. They've played some really good hockey.
Yeah, they have. Absolutely.
So I'm with you on that, man, for number 3. I get you, but I had to put them at my number 5B slot this week.
All right, top 2. Well, we have the top 2 the same, and they're very familiar names up in the top 2 spots here.
Until they give me a reason to knock them off.
Exactly. These are 2 teams that have been absolutely spectacular all year long and have not given us any reason to move them down at all in the power rankings. Number 2, Florida Panthers. I mean, this team continues to just play great hockey. 13-2-3 now on the season.
Even Spencer Knight in his limited play has played well.
Yep.
Bob has been playing.
Bobrovsky to me is the story here because he looks, after 2 downright bad seasons, he looks like Vezina Sergei Bobrovsky again.
Okay, you took the words right out of my mouth, John. That's why you are the GOAT, my man. That's why I love doing this show with you, sir, because we have always been on the same page, and that's exactly what I think is going on here with Florida, because I believe that we saw it last year, right, with their lineup. Now, they did lose Ekblad last year for the entire season. Now he's back. right now, but they are missing somebody though. I think it's Barkov.
Yeah, Barkov got a knee injury, so he's missed
Okay.
a few games. He's missed some
Okay.
time.
But for the most part, other than that, I mean, getting Ekblad back after missing most of all of last year.
Yeah, he missed the whole second half of last year.
He
didn't
clearly
come back at all.
exactly.
They were a different team when he went out.
Exactly. Because then at that time, that's when you had Yandel had to play a lot more minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And he's just not that guy.
Yep.
Okay. For Florida.
Yep.
Right. And so that's where it really hurt them in the playoffs. And that's why I believe they lost.
Yep.
But now he's in the lineup. Bob has been playing like Bob should be playing, earning his money now finally.
Yep.
Right. And I agree. Until Florida gives me a reason to take them off of this at number 2.
Yep.
They're going to stay. The only reason why they would come off the list is if Carolina started losing. Because then Florida would move up and then Carolina would go down, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the only way they would probably move.
Right.
Or if they, really kind of fell off and lost like 4 or 5 in a row or something like that. But I don't see that happening with this Florida team.
I don't either. We're taping this on the 24th, and Florida is going to be playing a Philadelphia team tonight's game, and that to me, I think that's going to be another mark in the win column there for them Panthers. So Florida's been playing really, really well, been really impressed. I haven't seen the infamous Huberdeau spinorama
no-look
pass yet connect. I've seen him try it once in a game.
Yep.
Where it didn't connect, but I know it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So, but yeah, love what Florida's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that leaves one spot left, the number 1 spot. And I think everyone knows who is there. It's pretty obvious.
It goes without saying.
Yeah, everyone knows who's the number 1 spot right now. That is the Carolina Hurricanes. They are 14-2-1 on the season, 29 points. This is just a team that's getting it done night in and night out. They have lost a couple games, but it doesn't really happen often. That's why it was a big story when it does happen, because it happens so infrequently. They've won 14 out of 17 games that they've played. That is absolutely phenomenal. And Carolina continues to hold the number 1 spot. And I think, pretty much everybody has Carolina in the number 1 spot right now.
And like I said, until they give me a reason to take them off the list, they even lost a game in overtime to the San Jose Sharks, and it's like it was their first overtime loss of the season.
Yes,
right. We're 17 games in, and you just now losing your first overtime game loss.
Yeah, and that's more impressive when you only have 2 regulation losses.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good gravy. So, and it doesn't matter who is in net for Carolina. It really doesn't.
Nope. They're doing everything right.
Yeah. It really doesn't matter. And they're just doing everything right. And we're going to talk about Carolina a little bit more here later, but
yes.
It makes it you can't even make an argument for any other team to be number 1.
No, I think Carolina is the clear-cut top team right now, with only 3 total losses, including 1 in overtime, and 14 wins, which leads the league. I mean, you not only have the fewest losses in the league, but you also lead the league in wins. That's your top team right there.
Exactly. And you haven't even – there's teams that have played a considerable number more games than they have played as well.
Yeah, there's teams that have played 20 games, and Carolina's only played 17, so they got games in hand on some other teams too.
Which makes it even more impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so they have games in hand, and they're still winning this many. Like, all right. So there you have it, man. John's top shelf power rankings is number 1, Carolina, number 2, Florida, number 3, Toronto, number 4, Calgary, number 5, Washington. My top 5 power rankings, Carolina, number 1, Florida, number 2, Calgary, number 3, Washington, number 4, and Edmonton, number 5.
All right, so there's top shelf, and those are our top teams in the league right now. And we are going to move on now to our next segment, which is the best game of last week. Where we'll talk about what we think was the best game from this past week of NHL action. Steele, if you want to lead us off, we can get right into it.
Well, now, funny you mention the Carolina Hurricanes.
Weren't we just talking about them?
I think we were, maybe. They played a game against the San Jose Sharks the other night on the 22nd. Maybe, and they didn't necessarily lose the game in regulation, but they did lose the game in overtime. It was their first overtime loss. And I'll tell you what, I tuned into this game and I thought, all right, Carolina, San Jose, all right, this is going to be a clinic in watching bang plays from Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not the case.
Yep.
San Jose, and let me just tell you something about Mr. Ranta. That man stood on his head.
Yep.
And he stopped. I mean, it was a goalie duel to begin with. Reimer was starting for Carolina, and Ranta was starting for San Jose.
Other way.
It was just a goalie duel.
Reimer for San Jose and Ranta for Carolina.
The other way around.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, Reimer playing against his old team.
Yeah.
Reimer's first game against Carolina after leaving in free agency this past year.
Yeah, and it didn't matter because they stopped everything.
Yeah, definitely a game. If you like great goaltending, check that one out for sure.
I mean, I wasn't expecting this game to be this great of a goaltending game.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. When you hear James Reimer versus Antti Ranta, you're not exactly thinking, 2-1 goaltending duel. It's like when in baseball, when a team's like starting their like fifth starter, you don't go into that game thinking you're going to see a pitcher's duel. But then all of a sudden it's like, boom, this guy's thrown, 7 shutout innings. It's like, what's going on here? This was the hockey version of that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I felt this was the best game of the week. It was physical, but very few whistles.
Yep.
Okay. And to be quite honest with you, I think that if it wouldn't have been for the power play at the end of regulation for San Jose, so that when they went into overtime, it was a 4-on-3 with San Jose on the power play.
Yep.
And that's how they scored and won. So I really feel that if there wouldn't have been a power play at the end of that game, that it would probably have gone to the shootout.
Yep.
And then who knows?
Yeah, then you get to this breakaway contest. And
but the way both Reimer and Ranta were playing, that game could have probably lasted for another 3 hours.
Maybe it could have been the longest shootout in NHL history if it got there.
What's the record at now? Like 16?
I have no idea.
I think it's 16 or 17 rounds now, I think.
Yeah, that's
the longest. Something like that.
Sounds about right. I'll check here quick. See if
our frack research staff.
20 rounds. 20 rounds.
I was off by 3.
Florida Panthers, Washington Capitals. December 16th of 2014, the Florida Panthers and Washington Capitals went 20 rounds before the Panthers were able to win that game.
All right. Well,
the previous record before that was 15.
Okay, so I was off by 3.
That would be a long shootout.
That's a long shootout. That's a lot of, But that snapped Carolina's win streak at 4.
Yes, it did. Big win for San Jose.
And San Jose they looked good. I mean, they came out of the gates flying, and then they just kind of hit that bump in the road, and the tires kind of fell off a little bit, and now I guess they're trying to put the tires back on, but they looked really good. I was impressed with how well they played and how they basically took Carolina to task.
Yeah. All right.
So, John, what was your game of last week?
Buffalo versus the New York Rangers from back on November 21st. This was a wild one. The Rangers end up winning 5-4 with a last-second goal scored by Ryan Lindgren in the NHL's version of a buzzer beater. This was a back-and-forth game all along. It seemed like every time one team went up, the other team would just tie it right back up. And nobody could get any separation from the other one. And it went right down to literally the last second. And it was, I believe, 0.7 seconds left in the third period when Ryan Lindgren was able to score for the Rangers. Rangers skate away with a 5-4 win and a big 2 points. But, man, I mean, like in basketball, when you get a buzzer beater at the end, it's just one of the most exciting things that can happen. And this was the hockey version of that. And for a game that was so close all the way through and so back and forth, high scoring as well. So if you like a lot of goals, you know, this was a game for you. And then to have a goal with less than a second left to win it is just edge of your seat kind of stuff. Imagine if that was a playoff game. Imagine winning a playoff game with 0.7 seconds left on the clock. Like that'd be incredible, and this was an incredible game and very, very exciting to watch.
That sounds awesome. And look, both of these teams from New York, Buffalo not as horrible as we thought they were going to be.
No, they've been a lot better this year.
Right? And New York not quite what we thought they were going to be. Shesterkin signed a, extension, has been playing well, but they're not quite. They're playing well, but they're the Rangers, I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Rangers are about what I expected. They're not. Well, they're giving up more goals than I thought they were going to, but they've counteracted that by scoring a lot of goals.
More goals, yeah.
They've got 51 goals on the season, but I mean they're 11-4-3. I think the Rangers' record definitely kind of took me a little bit by surprise looking at that. Like I didn't think that they were going to have that good of a record. I thought they were going to be more in that like 9-6-1 or like 9-5-1, something like that. But they're 11-4-3. They've got 25 points already this year. So I've been kind of impressed with the Rangers.
So, like I said, I mean, but I thought that Rangers were going to be playing a little bit better. I thought they were going to be more in the, say, Washington range. What they kind of are.
I think they are. They're 2 points behind the Capitals and they have the game in hand.
Yeah. Okay, well, there you go then. I guess they are playing up to expectations.
That's what I mean about, like, you don't realize that the Rangers are doing this good until you look at the standings and then you're like, wait a second. They're actually playing really well. Like, it doesn't – because they've won a lot of close games and they've won a lot of games where they've really stolen the game because of their goaltending.
Yeah, I'm with you.
They haven't played like an elite team, but they have the record of an elite team.
Yeah.
And they've stolen a lot of games this year. So you don't realize how good the Rangers are until you look at that record and you're like, wait a second.
Is there something wrong with my glasses?
Wait a second. They're right there with Washington fighting for the top of that division. So we'll see if the Rangers can keep it up. I don't think they're going to be able to steal games all year long.
True.
But so far, so good for them.
Yeah, right. And, Buffalo, too. Not quite as horrid.
Yeah, they're not a playoff team, but they're certainly not as bad as I thought they were going to be down in like Ottawa territory. We're like Ottawa's 4-11-1 right now. Like I thought Buffalo was going to be that kind of team.
Yeah,
they're 7-9-2. I mean, they're below 500, but they're certainly not terrible. Buffalo's been a lot better than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They've actually won a couple of games, you know what I mean? So they're not quite as bad as what I thought they were going to be, but still though, all in all, that sounded like a really awesome game to watch and check out for sure.
Definitely.
And really excited about that. And man, there's a whole slate of games and stuff that, oh my gosh, there's so much hockey just coming up. I mean, tonight and then
Friday
Friday,
is loaded.
Saturday.
Yep.
You know, I mean, we're starting to get right into the meat of things here now, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So those were our best games of this past week in the NHL, and further on in the show, we'll be talking about this upcoming week. But we got to get to 3 stars of the week first. It's time to take a look at some individual players who have had really, really good performances this past week. So we can get into it now, Steele. And we have the same players, it looks like, just in a different order. So if you want to go through all 3 of yours, I have the same ones, just a different order, but we can start with Steele. You're 3, 2, 1.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. Yeah, I looked at your list, and you know, this was the first time where we weren't actually working on this document
at the same time.
Yeah. Like, wait a minute. No, you're stealing my game. No. Anyway, but I put my list out there and went, oh, okay, gosh, it's the same guys that you have on your list.
Yeah.
All right, just in a different order. Okay.
I think there was a pretty clear 3 guys this week.
I'd have to agree with you on that. It was just kind of, I wasn't really sure which order I wanted to put them in. At least, okay, for my 3rd star, I have Tristan Jarry.
Yep. For
the Pittsburgh Penguins. I wasn't sure if I wanted to put him at number 2 or number 3, but I'll get into that in a minute. But number 3, I have Tristan Jarry for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Goaltender, .982 save percentage, 2-0-0 in his last 2 games. 1 shutout. He has stopped 56 of 57 shots. Here we go again, putting one of those Pittsburgh goalies up in the list of top star players.
They're so streaky. Like, when they get hot, they're so good. And then when things go bad, it completely collapses. It's really bad when it goes bad. But he's been playing awesome right now. No doubt about it.
This is a really good part.
Yeah, this is a really good streak here for Gerry.
Exactly, you know, and especially with what's going on in Pittsburgh, with Malkin missing almost every single game now so far this season, and then Crosby's only played in a handful of games. He missed a lot of the beginning of the season, and then went on the COVID list, and then whatever the case is. So it's been kind of a tougher road to hoe for Pittsburgh. And Tristan Jarry for his last 2 games playing really, really well. So I have him as my number 3 star of this week. My number 2 star for this week was a guy who was on the list last week, I believe, in the same position.
Yeah, he was on your list last week. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, how sick is that he's on the list again? We're obviously talking about Nazem Kadri from Colorado. 2 games played with 1 goal, 5 assists. That's right, 5 assists.
Yep.
6 points. He's a +4 player. Holy smokes. Good gravy. 2 power play goals, or 2 power play points in that point. But the fact that he is on this list again.
Yeah.
Hello.
Unreal.
Really good player here, people.
You want to know why Colorado is on a 5-game winning streak without Nathan MacKinnon? You got one of your big reasons why right here.
Especially with MacKinnon being out.
Yeah, that's right. Without MacKinnon, Kadri has had to step up, and he is absolutely done so.
Exactly. Definitely stepped into the breach for sure, and been really impressed. Now, this is 2 weeks in a row now, but really impressed with what he's putting in a lot more assists than he's putting in goals.
Yeah, he's setting teammates up and making some really good plays.
Exactly. So that's another second star for Kadri for me. And then my number 1 star is and I'm probably going to butch the name, but you'll just have to correct me. Noah Hanifin.
Hanifin, yes.
Yep, Noah Hanifin for Calgary. One of the other main reasons why Calgary is winning as well as they have been, or playing as well as they have been playing, and winning the games that they've been playing. Hanifin from Calgary, 3 games played, 1 goal, 4 assists for 5 points. He is a +7. Uh, +7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
21 minutes of ice time on average, but you're a +7 and you have 5 points in 3 games played. To me, that is not only getting it done offensively, but also making sure that you're being responsible defensively as well, too.
Absolutely. Hannafin's been great for Calgary.
And that's who my number one star is Hannafin, number 2 is Kadri, and number 3 is Jarry.
Yep.
And John, 3-2-1, 3 stars of the week from you. Go.
My third star of the week is Noah Hannafin from the Calgary Flames.
What do you know?
3 games played, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points, +7, over 21 minutes of ice time per game. He plays in all situations for Calgary. He's getting it done in all situations for Calgary, a big reason why they're off to the great start that they are. And he, like you said, he's playing a full 200-foot game, responsible defensively, productive offensively, just been the total package so far for the Calgary Flames. So Hannafin with a very, very good week. He has been impressive. At number 2, I've got Tristan Jarry from the Pittsburgh Penguins, my goaltender, best goalie from this past week without a doubt. Started 2 games, won both of them, a ridiculous .982 save percentage. Only gave up 1 goal in the game that he did give up a goal. Got a shutout in the other game. Stopped 56 out of 57 shots against. Nobody is playing net better over this past week than Tristan Jarry. And my number 1 star is Nazem Kadri from the Colorado Avalanche. 2 games played, 1 goal, 5 assists, 6 points, +4, 2 points on the power play, 4 points even strength. 6 points in 2 games. That's 3 points a game for Nazem Kadri this past week. Absolutely unreal numbers there. And like we said earlier, you want to know why Colorado is able to win without Nathan MacKinnon, why they're on this streak without Nathan MacKinnon. Nazem Kadri has stepped up and become an offensive powerhouse for this team, and they would not be winning the way that they are without him. Some other guys have played really well as well, obviously. Like, he's not the only one stepping up, but
Right.
Kadri is a huge reason why Colorado is on this winning streak, and he is playing outstanding hockey right now. So he is my number 1 star.
Wow, man, there you go. So we have the same 3 guys,
Yep.
But John has Kadri number 1, Jarry number 2, and Hannafin number 3.
Yes.
These are some of our favorite portions of this show, man, and we always seem to be on the same page, John. And we always seem to either we have the guys in the same spots or we have the same guys.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So we have the same guys this week, just in different spots.
Exactly.
All right, my man, here we go. This is another one of our favorite topics and one of our favorite segments of the show. This is where we go through the 3 hottest teams and the 3 coldest teams.
Yep.
That's right. We cover the positive and then the negative. We like to go with the positive first, and these are the 3 hottest teams that we feel are the 3 hottest teams in the league. John does his by the last 10 games played.
Yes.
Based off of the last 10 games played is his hottest team, and then I base it off of the win streaks.
Yes.
So, John, who do you have as your 3 hottest teams for this week?
So for number 3, I've got the Toronto Maple Leafs. They are 8-2-0 in their last 10 games. They won their last one out, but they lost the game before that, so their streak isn't as long, but I couldn't justify myself keeping them off the list because they've won 8 out of 10, and I don't think it gets much better than winning 8 out of 10. That's a hard thing to do in the NHL, and Toronto's playing really, really good hockey right now, so I got them in at number 3. At number 2, I've got the Calgary Flames, who are 6-2-2 in their last 10 games. Not as many wins as Toronto, but they are in a 4-game winning streak, so that definitely turns up the heat meter there for Calgary. And they are, well, they're on fire right now. 4 in a row, 6 out of 10. Calgary playing great, trying to grind their way up the Pacific Division standings and set themselves atop the Pacific Division. And at number 1, the Colorado Avalanche, 7-2-1 in their last 10 games and on a 5-game winning streak, which is the longest active winning streak right now in the NHL.
Yep.
7 out of 10, 5 in a row. You combine that together and you've got the hottest team in the NHL. And Colorado, like we've said, man, they have completely turned their season around and they are getting it done right now. And as long as that continues, Colorado is going to be climbing the Central Division standings here very, very quickly.
You know, with even though they've won 5 games in a row and their last 10, 7-2-1, that really bodes well for them as well too. That really shows that they're back.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That kind of puts that little bit of a stamp on it. You know what I mean? 7-2-1 for the last 10 games. So I'm with you on there. So there you go, man. Those are John's 3 hottest teams. And for me, I base my judgments on the win streak of the team.
Yes.
So the highest number of wins that you put together in a row, to me, that's the hottest team going. And, you know, to be honest with you here, this was really easy for me. I got Florida at number 3.
Yep.
They've won 3 in a row, and there's just no stopping the Panther train this year. Unless something major were to happen, like say an injury to Bob, you know, but even then, I think even if there was an injury to Bob, I think that Knight could step in.
Yeah.
But then who's going to be their backup?
Yeah. You're down into third goalie territory and you don't have Drieger anymore. So,
right.
Yeah, so, I don't even know who their third goalie would be. But
right, that's what I mean. So as long as Florida stays healthy, I don't see them knocking and being knocked off of any of these top lists. I have them at number 3 with a 3-win win streak here for them. I have number 2 Calgary Flames. Yep. They've got the second longest win streak at 4.
Yep.
They just continue to put wins in the win column, and both goaltenders have been playing outstanding. With Markstrom with the 5 shutouts, they're getting secondary scoring. I think with Sutter being there for the full off season and training camp has really been a major effect on this Calgary team, where they are starting to play hockey like that core of players were expected to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and you're now starting to see that now finally. You know, maybe it's been the coach this whole time. They just needed to get the right guy in there to get them in the right system, or, you know, whatever the case is. But Calgary, number 2 with 4 wins in a row. My number 1 hottest team is the same as yours, my friend. That's right, the Colorado Avalanche. They have won 5 games in a row. They're back.
Yeah.
When you win 5 games in a row, that's a hard task to do, especially where they're playing right now in the NHL. Their division is really tough. It's really been a tough road to hoe out there for them, and with the injuries that they've been facing, with McKenna being out as well. And even Landeskog, I believe, was out for a couple of games there at the beginning of the year. I think he was out too. Don't quote me on that, but I think he missed a couple games at the beginning. But Colorado, man, okay, 5 wins in a row. They're back, and they are my number 1 hottest team.
All right, so there we have it. Those are our hottest teams in the league. Now we've got to go over to the other side of things, the unfortunate side, the coldest teams, teams that are not playing well right now. And, hey, this is going to be easy because we have the exact same list. So
let me look here.
We can.
Well, hey, even in the same order.
We have the exact same list here. So this was easily done. Coming in at number 3, who do you have, Steele? Who also I have as well.
Right. Okay, so that was easy. Ottawa Senators.
Yeah.
Even if you take based off of how you judge yours, the last 10,
it's the same.
It's the same, and if you go with the losing streak, it's still Ottawa. They've lost 2 in a row now, and now they are coming back from being out for 10 days of COVID. They have missed some significant time, so excuse me, it's going to be a couple of games before you start to see them get their sea legs back, I guess you could call it. But Ottawa wasn't really going to be a good team this year anyway.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're down here, okay, no big surprise. Who do you have?
Ottawa, 2-7-1, last 10, lost 2 in a row. They came back from their postponements and they lost to Colorado. So doesn't seem like much has changed for the Senators. And yeah, I got Ottawa in at number 3. Number 2, again, same. Buffalo Sabres, also 2-7-1. Except they've lost 3 in a row.
3 in a row, yeah.
The streak there puts them at number 2. And after a strong start to the year where Buffalo was really impressing, they've kind of buffaloed and they've gone back down off the cliff and
That's a good
gotten back to being more of what we were expecting from the Sabres this year. And
I'm with
this
you.
isn't an uncommon thing with them. They have a good first month of the season and then see you later. We're going to go back to being the Sabres.
Same, yeah. And we've seen Ottawa and Buffalo as repeat offenders on this side of the list. So far this year already, and the one team I think that we're going to talk about here is definitely the surprise team on the list.
Yep, but the clear cut number 1 at this point.
Yeah, I mean we're talking about the New York Islanders as our number 1 coldest team with losing 6 games in a row.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of things contributing to this.
Absolutely. This isn't just them losing 6 in a row. There's a lot of guys out of the lineup, and they've got COVID, they've got injuries. There's a lot going into this, but it doesn't take away from the fact that they've lost 6 straight, and they are 3-6-1 in their last 10 games.
And this might end up being one of those too big of a hole to climb out of situations for the Islanders, where if this continues on for say another 5 more games, this is a problem because this division is so tough. In other divisions you might have a chance to dig your way out of a hole like this, but in the Metro, which is so stacked this year, this is going to be a really tough hole to try and climb out of for New York. And I don't see them, if they continue to not win games, I do not see them climbing out of this hole.
No, I mean, even now I'm thinking wild card spot at best for this team. I don't think they're going to knock out any of the top 3.
No.
Not the way that they're playing right now. So
right. Last year, we saw what happened with them last year. They were kind of playing mediocre, and then towards like the last third of the season, they picked it up and worked their way into what, 4th or 3rd?
Yeah, they were 4th, and then they won in the playoffs and went all the way to the semifinals. So.
Right. So, I mean, the fact that they got it into the semifinals, the fact that they picked up right when they needed to pick up at the end of the season last year and was able to, but you can't, they were still kind of, they were maintaining.
Yeah.
You can't get, it's okay if you're maintaining, but they're not maintaining right now. They're just dropping down and dropping down.
Yeah, that's the problem for the Islanders for sure.
Right.
So that makes them, with the 6 losses in a row, the coldest team in the NHL right now.
Burr hiss on that one, boy. Break out the galoshes and the coats and the toques on that one. Woo!
Yes.
Man. All right, here we go.
Fun
part?
Yes.
You ready?
I'm ready. Lightning round, game pick, Saturday's games.
We do predictions because we like to have a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
This is not for anything other than just a little bit of competitive banter between the great host that John is and Steele, myself. So a lot of games, not quite as many games.
No, it's a lighter Saturday this week because Friday is so loaded.
Big heavy, yeah. So we got heavy games on Friday, not quite as
still 9 on Saturday though. So
I know
there's a lot of games still to pick. This is going to be fun.
It is. So now from last week,
yep,
John and I both tied. We were both 7-5.
Yep.
Okay, so last week we were tied at 7-5, 7 wins, 5 losses.
Yep.
We have been tied now. We're both 41-33 on the year so far.
All right.
Okay, so
over 500.
Yeah, that's right. And
that is
we're
good.
Both at 41-33.
Okay.
So Here we go.
Boom.
I think this week might have some. I don't know. We'll see. The first game on the docket. These are for Saturday night matchups. That's the 27th. That's 2 days after Turkey Day, by the way, for all of you keeping track and score. So the first game on the docket is the Seattle Kraken against Florida at Florida.
Florida, I just don't think there's even needed elaboration on that.
All right, next. Edmonton versus Vegas Golden Knights.
Wow, so this is going to be
Vegas.
This is going to be a great game. I'm going to go Oilers. Vegas has been playing a lot better recently, but I think Edmonton is the better team, and I think Edmonton is going to get the job done here. They could use a big road win, the Oilers, and I think that this is a chance for them to get it.
I'm with you on that, even though I believe Stone is back from Vegas.
Yeah, I think Pacioretty's either just came...
Pacioretty's out. I just saw, or no, he's not out. He's a game time decision tonight.
Yeah, so he's coming back. So Pacioretty is coming back. So
okay. And pretty much everybody's playing Friday. For the most part.
Yeah, I didn't even think about back-to-back situation, but I think most of the league plays on Friday.
Almost everybody's playing on Friday as well, too.
So it's going to be a lot of back-to-back games.
Right.
It is
I'm
what
going
it is.
with Edmonton on this, though, too.
Yeah.
Because I think there's... I just don't think Vegas is there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I believe Edmonton is.
Okay.
So Ottawa versus the LA Kings at LA.
LA... I mean, it's hard to pick Ottawa right now. They only have 4 wins on the year.
Yeah. I'm with you. And they're still coming back and still getting their sea legs. All right. This one's going to be a little bit tougher. This is Buffalo at Detroit.
Yeah, this is a really interesting game. 2 teams that are playing better this year than people were expecting. At the end of the day, I'm going to go Detroit. I believe they've already played once this season, and Detroit won that game. This game is in Detroit. Red Wings, I think, are a little bit better than the Sabres. I'm going to go with the Red Wings.
That's kind of where I was going as well, too. Both of these teams are playing better than what we anticipated that where they were going to be playing. Yeah. But I also feel, too, that Detroit is the better of these teams right now.
Yep.
And they're making a little bit better hay than what they were last year and doing a little bit better than what Buffalo was as well, too. So I just – and with what you said, the fact that this game is in Detroit, I'm with you. Red Wings all the way on this one.
Yep.
Okay, next game on the slate, Montreal at Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, they're playing a lot better here recently. They're starting to get actually kind of hot, so I'm going to take the Penguins at home.
And with Gerry being our second star of the week, it's one of those things where he gets streaky, and if he's playing really well, great. Montreal, they have not been playing well this year.
No.
I'm actually surprised that they're not on any of our cold list or anything, but kudos to them for not being on any of our lists this week.
Yeah.
But I'm with you, though. Crosby is back. Gerry's playing well. I'm with you on that. Pittsburgh on this one as well. So the next game is Dallas at Arizona.
I got to give Arizona credit. They're playing a lot better recently. But I'm going with Dallas. I mean, it's just Dallas should win this game.
And especially after that really good win
over Edmonton last night. Yeah.
For Dallas, you know what I mean?
We'll see what they do in the games between, but yeah.
I'm with you on that. So I like Dallas in this one as well.
Yep.
The next game is Columbus Blue Jackets versus St. Louis Blues.
And this is a tough game. This is going to be a really good game, I think, but I'm going to lean Blues in this one.
I'm actually going to watch this game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already planning on watching this game. I'm not by any stretch of the word a Blues fan or any stretch of the word a Columbus Blue Jackets fan, but I just have the feeling about this game.
It should be a really good one.
Right. That's why I want to watch this game. And I also believe that it's going to be St. Louis in this one.
Yeah.
Columbus has been playing much more improved than what we expected them to be this year.
Yep.
But I also think St. Louis is doing the same thing, playing a little bit better than what we expected this year too.
Yeah, no, they've been really good. I had the Blues as a playoff team, but I didn't think they were going to be this good.
I mean, Tarasenko has just come back and has just lit it up.
Yes, Vladdy looks like the old Vlad Tarasenko this year.
Okay, so it's hard for me to pick against St. Louis now. It just is. Bennington has been playing a lot better as of late as well too. Mm-hmm. It's really tough for me to pick against them. Yeah. So I'm going St. Louis on that one as well too. All right, here's another really good one too for you, ladies and gentlemen. Nashville versus Colorado in Colorado.
What a game there! Huge Central Division matchup. But I'm gonna have to go with the Colorado Avalanche. They are hot right now, and not gonna bet against a hot team like that. So I'm picking the Avs.
And with Colorado being one of my favorite teams, I have to always pick Colorado. So Colorado against Nashville. I too, though, this is probably going to be one of those games where I might have to because it's in Colorado, so it'll start later.
Yeah, that's probably.
So I'll be able to switch back and forth.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'll be able to watch the first part of the Columbus St. Louis game, and then when that's an intermission, I'll watch the first period of the Nashville Colorado game.
Yep. Works out that way.
I mean, it's perfect, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Last game on the docket is Winnipeg versus the Calgary Flames at Calgary.
Another great matchup here.
I know.
Should be a lot of fun. But again, Calgary, they're on the top list for a reason. They're one of the top teams in the league this year, so I'm going to go with the Flames.
You know what? This is going to be the first week where we've agreed on every single pick.
We've agreed on every single one.
Yep. So I have to go with Calgary as well. They are one of the best teams in the league. I mean, they're in our power rankings. They're in our hottest teams. I mean, you can't not talk about the best teams in the NHL and not talk about Calgary.
Yep.
You cannot talk about one of the best goaltenders in all of hockey right now without talking about Jacob Markstrom.
Yep.
You just can't. Okay, so I can't go anything against Winnipeg, and I am very happy to see this team playing well and would like to see them continue to play well.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. So we'll see how we do.
Yep. Here we go. I mean, we didn't differ on anything this week, so we're either sinking or swimming together.
Yes, this is one where we're either going to climb the mountain or we're going to sink to the bottom.
Fall off.
But we're doing it together either way.
That's right. All right. We're both going down with the ship or rising to the penthouse. Either way. That brings us to another one of our favorite sections of the show and one of our favorite segments, and it's the game of the week. And this is a game where we feel that you should be tuning into.
Yes, what we think is the best matchup.
Yeah, and aside from the ones that we talked about on Saturday, these are games that are potentially Saturday and beyond. So, John, who do you got as your game of the week for this coming week?
So we got to go ahead to November 28th, which, let's see, that is Sunday.
Sunday,
Sunday night, or Sunday afternoon. I think this is an afternoon start. Washington against Carolina. We have the top two teams in the Metro Division. We talked about how stacked the Metro is. Well, we have the two best teams from that stacked division facing each other on Sunday. It's a divisional game. Both teams playing really well right now. Obviously, they're at the top of the standings for a reason. This is going to be a phenomenal divisional matchup between the Capitals and the Hurricanes. And that is definitely going to be one to tune in and watch on Sunday.
When I looked down there, because that was one of the games that I was looking at to pick as my game of the week, and then I saw that you had picked it.
Yep.
And I went, okay, I'll go to my backup game.
Yeah.
Because seriously, this is one of the games that I really felt would be Yeah, Washington versus Carolina. I really thought that would be one of the games to watch. I'm going to go a couple of days later on Tuesday, and that is going to be the matchup of California, Anaheim versus the Kings.
Yep.
And I believe this is the first matchup of the season.
Yes, it is. First time playing this year.
Yes. And so both of these teams have been going in the right direction, meaning they're winning. Okay. Anaheim has been playing really well. LA Kings have been playing really well. I think this game is going to be one of those really good games. You know, both teams, we both felt that Anaheim, and especially with Torrey Terry playing as well as he's been playing, Zegras is playing as well, Gibson playing really well out there in Anaheim. I mean, the Ducks have just been playing extremely well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And LA and the Kings are kind of coming right along with. You know, they've been playing some pretty darn good hockey out there in California, and I'm here to tell you, this first matchup, this has that Battle of Edmonton feel.
Well, this is a huge rivalry. Anaheim and LA has been a big rivalry since the California teams have come into the league. So,
right,
especially when both teams are good, that rivalry tends to really ramp up when both teams are good. Not so much, when they both fall down to the bottom, not as much. But when both of these teams are playing well, this is a big time rivalry.
So, like I said, it has that Battle of Alberta feel. Like this is going to feel like a playoff game, I bet you.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good one for sure.
Yep. So there you go. That's my game of the week, and that's on the 30th. That's on Tuesday, the 30th of November. The last game of November for each of these teams. Anaheim versus the LA Kings.
All right, that brings us now to our final segment. It is Prospect Watch time. This is where we look at an NHL prospect who maybe not be making big waves at the NHL level yet, but we certainly expect to be down the line and in the near future. And looks like we got two more very good ones again here this week. Steele, who is your Prospect Watch for this week?
Well, it's funny. We were talking about the LA Kings against the Anaheim Mighty Ducks, and against the Anaheim Ducks, excuse me. And my prospect watch is just that, an LA Kings prospect watch. He was selected in the 2019 entry draft, and I'm talking about Alex Turcotte, 20 years old, 5'11", 185 pounds, drafted in the first round, 5th overall by the LA Kings. Has not made it up to the big club yet. I think he was recalled, but I don't think he played. I think he was a healthy scratch or something. They do have him listed as playing with the LA Kings, but there's no stats listed for him. So I'm thinking he was a healthy scratch or something. He has been playing very, very well for the AHL affiliate team, the Ontario Reign. In 14 games played, he's got 3 goals, 6 assists, and 9 points, and a +8 already.
Yep.
So, and he has been very much improved from last year. Where he's played half as many games, and he already has third of the points that he had from last year. So playing much better this year with the AHL. I think the fact that he's 5'11" might have the fact that he's not been up with, because it's 2019 draft. He was drafted 5th overall. Why isn't he playing up with the club yet?
Yeah, he's taken a little bit longer to get up, I think, than LA was expecting. But he has played NHL games. No, he hasn't.
No. He
hasn't actually played he hasn't played an official NHL game yet. He has played obviously in the preseason, but he's taken a little bit longer to get up to the NHL level than LA was expecting, but he's put up pretty good numbers down in the AHL. So I just think it's a matter of time before Turcotte works his way into that lineup and is a key contributor for this Los Angeles Kings team, who is obviously full of young up-and-coming talent.
See, that's exactly the thing, which is another reason, too, why I'm a little bit scratching my head. First round, 5th overall pick in 2019, still playing with the AHL. So, hey, maybe it's a good problem for them to have. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Definitely.
John, who do you have as your prospect watch for this week?
So my prospect watch this week is JJ Peterka, 19-year-old forward from the Buffalo Sabres, currently playing with Rochester down in the AHL. John Jason is 5'11", 192 pounds, so he's got that NHL body ready to go. He was drafted in the second round, 34th overall by Buffalo back in 2020, and he is putting up spectacular stats in the AHL this season, over a point per game, with 4 goals, 11 assists, 15 points, and a +3 rating in 14 games with the Rochester Americans. He can play center or wing, so he's versatile up front. Obviously a big-time playmaker, more of a passer than a pure goal scorer, but can get the job done, set up his teammates, and obviously anybody that has 11 assists in 14 games is doing a good job dishing the puck out. So, Buffalo, obviously a team that is looking for all the young talent they can get.
Yep.
A team that hasn't really been good in a long time at the NHL level, hoping that some of these young guys that they have in their system now are going to come up and, down the line be big-time contributors. I certainly think that JJ Peterka is going to be a big-time contributor for the Buffalo Sabres sooner rather than later. And obviously he's going to be a setup man. He is going to be a guy that dishes the puck. And they're going to have to put him on a line with some players that can finish and can put the puck in the back of the net. I think Victor Olofsson would certainly love to play with a guy like JJ Peterka. I think Jack Quinn will certainly love playing with JJ Peterka. But he's going to be a playmaker, and I think he's going to be a very good playmaker for Buffalo.
Buffalo has had, in the last, say, 3 drafts, really good draft picks they've picked up.
Yeah.
They've got a group of really good young talent waiting in the wings to come and play for Buffalo. So, with the fact that they were able to move Eichel, and that is going to open up things for this Buffalo team to where I believe that maybe they might now be able to turn the corner.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think this next group of young guys that they've brought in over the last couple of years are really going to have to be that group that that takes this Sabres team and finally pulls them out of the basement, finally pulls them out of a rebuild, and finally, gets Buffalo back to being a winning team, where they should be. I mean, if we go back 2019, they got Dylan Cousins. He's already up at the NHL level. I like him a lot.
Me too.
They got Jack Quinn in 2020. They got JJ Peterka in 2020. They got Owen Power last year. They got Isaac Rosen last year. Like, these are going to have to be the guys that pull this team out of being the typical same old same Buffalo Sabres and get them back to being a winning franchise.
And, you just rattled off a list of players that are basically a who's who of prospects.
Yep.
I mean, let's face it, they've got some of the best up-and-coming prospects.
They have
them and Anaheim, I think, have some of the best up-and-coming prospects coming into the league here in the next year or two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they've got a good group down there that's going to be ready to make an NHL impact.
For sure, man. Wow, dude, there you go, brother. Prospect watch, 2 great young players. Not quite at the NHL level yet, but we'll be knocking on the door, I think, in the next season.
Yes, absolutely. They're going to be playing in the NHL sooner rather than later.
Agreed.
All right, well, that's going to bring us now to the end of episode 45 of the Off the Wall Hockey Show. It's a hockey show for hockey fans, part of the Steel Flyers All Sports Network. Steel, once again, great show. Thank you so much for being on and co-hosting, and we have a whole new week of NHL action coming up to talk about next week.
You got that right, and thank you very much for having me on. And I would like to take this time right now to make an announcement that John and I have been very lucky and very blessed with being sponsored by Manscaped. We will be doing a ad campaign starting in December, where we will be featuring a special code for everybody to enter in to get a percentage off, and our show will have some sponsorship. So how about that?
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Big thank you to Manscaped, and very, very happy to have them on board as a partner. And it's going to be a really cool partnership, and it's great to have them aboard here on the Off the Wall Hockey Show and part of the Steel Flyers All Sports Network family.
Exactly. And that means all the great shows, the Pearl of Wisdom show, the Steel Flyer show, the Hockey Writers Inc. show, and of course the Off the Wall Hockey show, Peyton on the radio, the Steel Flyers podcast, all the great stuff that we have at Steel Flyers All Sports Network. Thank you all very much for watching and checking us out. Please hit the like and subscribe. Let us know what you think. We really can't do any of this stuff without you guys and without your feedback. So thank you all very much for watching. John, thank you very much for being another great host on another great week of great information from the NHL. All the great work that you do, John. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and thank you to everybody for watching. Obviously, we wouldn't be here without you. I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving.
Yep. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Hope you guys have a great weekend coming up. And this was episode 45. We'll be back next week with episode 46. The Off the Wall Hockey Show, part of the Steel Flyers All Sports Network. You can check out everybody's work at www.steelflyers.com. That's going to do it for now. See you guys next week. Thank you again so much, and have a great weekend.